Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Head 3. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So I talked a lot about all these different WFN personalities over the years, in particular on this channel for the last, since November. I would mention, please subscribe if you haven't already. Once I get to 500 subscribers, I will be hitting the application that gets somewhat monetized. So it's very important that you come and subscribe. It'll really help me out. Second that happens. But the WFAN let go two guys, Salicata and Brandon Tierney, and they've become independent, but they're not really that independent, to be honest with you. They need sponsors. They need people to tell them what to say because they can't help themselves. But Brandon Tierney has had a very good month and a half on his own. On YouTube, he's got over 15,000 subscribers now. And I'm at under 500. That's all right. It's my fourth or fifth channel. But he had talked a lot about different things. But I would mention, he's been on different programs. He was on Fox. I guess with Brian Kilmeade. One guy. But Bear Media had something interesting about Brandon Tierney. And here's the headline. Brandon Tierney warns sports talk personalities about taking political stances on air and online. That is true. Now, you host, maybe on YouTube, but I'm an independent person. I do my own thing here, and that's how everybody should look at it, at least from other people's standpoints. Quote, nobody gives a shit about what you think about politically. They really don't. I know that you think that they do, they don't, so get over yourself. But here's the problem. When you have these left-wing newsrooms that have been integrated with communism and all this nonsense, you have to speak about it if you have to. Now, I would mention last week, the Washington Post basically let go of their entire sports section. So they basically have basic skeleton crew, basically other people working for it now, so they don't have one now. And all the sports media came out in support. Now the problem is the Washington Post has a horrible history of interjecting themselves in politics. Not reporting the news, but making the news. Like, for example, they were integral in the resignation of Richard M. Nixon in 1974 because they hired Bob Woodward, who was not only a friend of Dick Cheney, and a classmate of Dick Cheney, but he was also a guy that was an asset of the CIA. He was a CIA operative. And how does a guy who basically gets a job at the Washington Post gets the biggest story of the century about President Nixon? Supposedly. Because they interject themselves in politics. And so... And the Washington Post is a failing, it's a failing newspaper. All the papers that you filed as kids and right up until about 15 years ago, they're all failing because they're not online. They can't compete with, things that are going on online. Everything's visual now. People would rather watch a show to get the news than they would to read the paper. It's as simple as that. Nobody wants to spend $3-4 on a newspaper, a daily newspaper. It's crazy. But the idea that sports is not political, all the sports personalities are political, all of them. So this is kind of a contradiction. Brandon doesn't understand. I don't know if he understands that. And I would mention WFN, just like everybody else, was pushing for the vaccine or pushing for the people to be masked. When it turned out the mask didn't mean anything, and the vaccine did more harm than good. As the volume of political discourse in sports media continues to rise, stemming from Super Bowl 60, former WFN host Brandon Tierney is running a firm line about where he believes the conversation should end. Now, the thing about the Super Bowl was Bad Bunny's just a bad actor. He's a puppet, okay? And the biggest thing that it was anti-American, it was anti-white, anti-English speaking. People said that people were telling me that they thought it was very entertaining, the show, but the biggest problem was it wasn't in English. And that was the problem. During a recent episode of his YouTube program, BT Unleashed, longtime sports radio host, delivered a blunt message to commentators who routinely blend partisan viewpoints into their analysis. He argues that many in the industry have overestimated both their influence and their audience's appetite for political takes. Brandon, I don't remember you saying anything about Gary Cohen when he went after Matt Shaw, when he wanted to take time off to go to a wake for Charlie Kirk. He was quiet. But he didn't say nothing about, sometimes you got to say something. Quote, "You're not nearly as important as you think you are," Tierney said. "Nobody gives a shit about you, what you think about politically. They really don't. I know that you think they do. They don't. So get over yourself, because the days of people caring what you think about politics, if you're a sports guy, they are quickly coming to an end." But the problem is that it's just a negative thing overall. Tierney framed his comments not as a rejection of the civic engagement, but as a warning about professional boundaries in media environment are already saturated with opinion-driven programming. He suggests that sports fans typically turn to games, analysis, personality-driven discussions a break from the daily churn of political conflict, and that repeatedly steering conversations toward ideology risks undermining that relationship. Moreover, he criticized content creators who intentionally weave political commentary and sports coverage in pursuit of social media traction, describing that strategy as short-sighted and corrosive to long-term credibility. "If you think that I'm going to waste my time, or I'm going to waste your time shoving this stuff every which way sideways just to get a few more followers or buy some social media equity, get lost. You couldn't pay me to play that game. That game is played out. That game is weak." At Tierney's view, I would mention that a lot of the sports has sort of become what the Romans pushed, what the Roman government always pushed, getting them bread and circuses so they don't get distracted. So they get distracted and they don't have to worry about what we're doing to them. That's the problem with what he's pointing out. I mean, you should tell the NFL not to bring in Bad Bunny. Because Bad Bunny's a bad guy and he's a bad actor. "There's repercussions," he said. "It might not be immediate, but downstream. That's coming back to roost. I can't tell you how disenchanted I am and how disgusted I've become with so many reckless opinions and the invite. It is a joke, absolute joke." While sports and politics inevitably intersect at times, particularly when leagues or athletes address social issues, Tierney contended that commentators should approach those moments with discipline rather than reflex. He argued that the role of a sports host centers on insight, perspective, and entertainment, not ideological combat. Well, that last part I agree with. But you have to have some kind of moral clarity about the things you talk about. Like, I was not really willing to talk about Francisco Lindor's wife's relationship with the new mayor of New York. I was not going to want to talk about that, but because the Mets collapsed, and there was a lot of talk that there was a lot of infighting politically within that clubhouse, I had to talk about it. And if you notice, the media did not ask at any point over the last month to David Stearns or the Mets front office or ownership about what happened. I'm the only one, as far as I know, that dug very deeply into that. And sometimes you have to get your hands dirty if you want to bring something up to the surface. And I thought those videos were very constructive on the Baseball Head too. Sometimes you have to talk about things and shine a light on it. But for the most part, I would rather not have to talk about it. But when athletes are bringing this shit into our lives, especially in 2020, where they're taking knees and they're telling you that you're a terrible person if you wear a mask, you're a terrible person for not getting vaccinated. It's all political, and the same people that you listen to and you hear them commentate, they're pushing that nonsense on you, and you have to respond. It's very important that you respond. At least from my perspective, you can't just let it go. Nothing is in a vacuum. Everything is related, to be honest with you. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. And, of course, please subscribe. Very important. I need about 7 or 8 more subscribers on this channel. And I need you to hit that subscribe button so I can hit that monetization, at least partially on here, and create maybe some memberships here as well. So please help me out. And, of course, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you later.